World of Warcraft is a game that's played by many different types of people from all across the world. Some enjoy PvP, some enjoy PvE, and others just enjoy role-playing. With such a mixed player base, it can't be easy for Blizzard to decide which content does and doesn't make it into the live game. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the top 10 things that World of Warcraft players want, based on a straw poll of about 8,000 votes that I put out a few weeks ago. Number 10, the Dance Studio. This is a feature that players have been asking Blizzard about at pretty much every BlizzCon event since 2008. The Dance Studio was initially meant to be a feature added to WoW for the launch of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. It was even advertised in the Lich King trailer and was meant to give new dance customization options, allowing you to combine moves from different races to create something a little more unique. So what happened to this feature? Blizzard had obviously done some work on it to advertise it in the Wrath trailer. Well, no one really knows. Whenever asked at BlizzCon about it, the replies are generally the same. We're working on it, we'd love to add it to the game, but it's not at the top of our priority list. I, along with many others, were almost certain that the Dance Studio would be added to the game in Warlords of Draenor as a building in your garrison. Sadly, we were wrong. However, Blizzard did add a garrison mission titled The Dance Studio, in which you send a follower off to the Northrend Academy of Dance. At this point, the Dance Studio has become a community joke more than anything, and whilst it may never make it into the game, one thing's for sure is that people will continue to ask for it for many more years to come, never letting go of the dream of combining an undead headbang with a Tauren shuffle. Number 9, better world scaling. Scaling technology is something we've seen a lot more of from many MMOs in recent years, and World of Warcraft is finally starting to catch up with this in their new expansion Legion, which will allow players to choose what order they take on the zones in the Broken Isles by scaling everything to the same level that the player is currently at. This is obviously a good thing as it gives more choices to the player, but would be even better if they applied this scaling to all the zones in the game, similar to what Guild Wars 2 does. In doing this, it would allow high level players to group with friends that have recently started the game and quest with them without one hitting all the mobs. This could be something that they'll eventually add to the game. Maybe they want to see how well it works out on the Broken Isles first before rolling it out to the older zones. Number 8, time walking raids. In Warlords of Draenor, Blizzard introduced the time walking dungeon feature, which allowed players to queue for scaled versions of dungeons from previous expansions. This had a lot of people excited, but for me personally, my hope was reserved for time walking raids. This would be the perfect way to allow players that missed the raid content of an old expansion to at least get some idea of what those raids were like. I didn't really care too much for time walking dungeons as you can still experience them whilst leveling up. When talking about time walking raids, people always bring up the issue of newer classes and abilities making it really hard to balance, which is a fair point. I can't imagine Blizzard taking away our new abilities and stats to give a truly authentic experience if this is something that makes it into the game, as that'd probably take a lot of work. I guess all they could do is tweak the numbers to add a little more challenge. Blizzard have mentioned before that this is something they'd like to add to the game, however their only issue was figuring out rewards they could give to players for completing them. I guess my suggestion if they were to add this feature in Legion would be to reward players with artifact power and allow each player to receive their own loot from the boss. This way it could incentivize players to do their transmog runs with a group of time walking raiders rather than on their own, and would probably work well with the new transmog system in Legion as many more people will be running these old raids. Number 7, World of Warcraft 2. With World of Warcraft being over 11 years old at this point, many people have started to question how much longer can the game continue to dominate the MMORPG market for. There's already plenty of areas in Azeroth that really shows the game's age, and with more MMOs adopting a more action combat style of gameplay, one has to wonder when will people get bored of tab targeting and World of Warcraft in general. From a personal standpoint, I no longer feel the same excitement about WoW that I had for it when I was younger. It doesn't feel like the groundbreaking game today that it once was, yet I still play it due to the time I've invested into my account. When asked about the possibility of World of Warcraft 2, many people from Blizzard have said it's something they've been talking about for years, however can't see it being something that would happen anytime soon if at all. Executive producer J. Allen Brack said at Gamescom 2015 in an interview when asked about the possibility of WoW 2, "You know, there's not really a great model for a successful sequel MMO. Virtually all of them have been very significant failures, and I think we're very conscious of that, not just small failures either." He also said they're not currently working on any other MMO other than World of Warcraft, which is said to have more expansions planned after Legion. I think if we ever see a sequel to World of Warcraft, it'll be at a time when WoW is in rapid decline, or a new MMO comes along to take the top spot. Until then, it'd be a bad business move for Blizzard to split the player base when they're still making boatloads of money. Number 6. 6. Legacy servers. This is another feature that I often see players requesting to be added to the game, and I'd love to see this feature too. A legacy server would basically be a server that allows players to play an older version of World of Warcraft. For example, there'd be a server for Vanilla, BC, Wrath, Kata, and so on. The benefit of adding these servers from Blizzard's point of view is that they could attract players back to WoW who play private servers and make money from them by charging additional subscription fees. The problem with adding these servers would be that it'd split the player base, cost money to maintain the servers, each legacy server would inherit the old bugs present in the old expansions, and from an egotistical standpoint, it would look really bad for Blizzard if players would rather play an older version of the game rather than the current version with all the new content. I think legacy servers would be awesome as it'd allow players who never got to experience certain expansions to go back and see what they missed. However, I can't see it being something Blizzard would ever introduce unless they stopped making expansions. Number 5. Warcraft 4. Blizzard are known for being amazing at making RTS games, and a huge reason for World of Warcraft's success was how they introduced the Warcraft universe to people through their RTS games Warcraft 1, 2 and 3. I think for me personally, Warcraft 4 is definitely one of the things I want the most on this list. I sometimes still play Warcraft 3 just for a bit of nostalgia every now and again. At Gamescom 2015, Tim Morton said in an interview when asked about the future of Blizzard RTS games, "It's very rewarding for us to hear that there's demand out there for more RTS content in the Warcraft universe. So once we're done with Void, I think we'll get together as a team and talk about what would inspire us to work on next. There's no question though that we'll consider Warcraft, StarCraft, or even new ideas. Anything is possible." So it's not 100% confirmed yet, but it's great to know that it's something they're going to consider. Maybe if as a community we show a greater demand for Warcraft 4, this is actually something that could happen. Number 4. More PvP content. It doesn't surprise me that this is something that received so many votes, as PvPers haven't had a whole lot to be excited about in recent expansions, and Blizzard have already said they don't plan on adding any new battlegrounds to the game in Legion. They are however adding some new arenas and a new PvP honor system, which will be more rewarding for players. I think the PvP community as a whole feel like Blizzard doesn't really care about that aspect of the game as much as they should. It's been over 2 years since any new battlegrounds were added to WoW, and all PvPers have had to look forward to in Warlords was Ashran, which was said to be like Alteric Valley 2.0, however was universally hated by everyone when released. I don't think it's hard to please the PvP community as they're so used to getting much less content than players who focus on PvE. I think they just want something new to look forward to, maybe a team deathmatch BG or a game type similar to Hutt's Ball from Star Wars The Old Republic. Anything, just somewhere new to kill each other. I do hope Blizzard reconsider and add some new battlegrounds to Legion in later patches. Number 3. More dungeons. As you'd imagine, dungeons are considered an important aspect of most MMORPGs, and it's something that many people enjoy doing with a group of their friends. Unfortunately in WoW, dungeons haven't really had much relevance for a long time, and are often only run for a few weeks at the start of an expansion. Blizzard have recently acknowledged the importance of dungeons and are taking steps to make sure they're more relevant in Legion, by adding a keystone feature that will essentially scale up the difficulty and rewards, so everyone can get something from them. The issue most people have is with the actual number of dungeons in recent expansions. In the Burning Crusade we got 16, in Wrath of the Lich King we got 16, in Cataclysm we got 14, in Mist of Pandaria we got 9, and in Warlords of Draenor we only got 8 dungeons. As you can see, this is a pretty substantial decline and really reflects the relevance that these dungeons have had to the gearing process at endgame. Not all hope is lost though. In World of Warcraft Legion there will be 10 dungeons at launch, and with the new keystone feature that should keep dungeons relevant for the entire expansion, it makes more sense for Blizzard to add even more dungeons later down the line in patches, possibly along with new raid tiers, but we'll have to wait and see. Number 2. Harder solo content. I was actually surprised that this one received so many votes, although this is something I'd really like to see added to the game myself. Back in Vanilla and the Burning Crusade, leveling itself offered a decent amount of challenge. As a warrior, pulling 3 Murlocs at once would probably result in a death, but today leveling is almost mind-numbingly easy to the point where there's no challenge at all. I think the popularity of the Iron Man challenge is a good indicator that people want more of a solo challenge in WoW, but what could Blizzard realistically do to give players what they want in this respect? An idea I have for hard solo content is actually creating a solo dungeon difficulty on both current content dungeons and time-walking dungeons. This option could be added to your keystone in Legion and give slightly worse rewards than the group version of dungeons, because of course the game is an MMO and you always want to incentivize group content. Another thing they could do is just make mobs much harder in the max level zones by adding more mechanics, more things not to stand in, and more big damage abilities that need interrupting. Other than that, I'm not too sure what they could do, so if you've got a suggestion then leave it in a comment below. Number 1. Good player / guild housing, not garrisons. Anyone that's played WoW during Warlords of Draenor can tell you how much of a disappointment garrisons turned out to be. They had so much potential but instead turned out to be a prison that you didn't want to leave because they gave you so many rewards. When I first saw the Warlords of Draenor trailer, I expected garrisons to have a lot more customization, not just, do you want your building on the left or on the right? Player housing when done right in an MMO can give players a feeling of creativity and individuality. Games that do this well are WildStar, Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn, and Black Desert. Player housing and guild halls was a feature initially intended to be added to WoW after the launch of vanilla. An old blue post on the beta forum says, guild halls will most likely not be implemented before World of Warcraft is released. They are similar to player housing, which will also not make the release. Another one said, our plan is to add player housing in a future live update or expansion. Our current idea, which could change, is to extend the cities to have player housing neighbourhoods. For example, in the canal area of Stormwind, players can see a blue instance portal behind a large portcullis. This is the entrance to the player housing neighbourhood in Stormwind. It's a shame that after all these years Blizzard still haven't achieved a successful player housing system. I think one thing they've learned from garrisons though is that player housing should be something that's purely cosmetic and doesn't take players out of the world through over-incentivized rewards. Who knows, maybe one day they'll pull it off. It's interesting to see just how many people want to see some good player housing in the World of Warcraft. So that's it for this video guys, let me know in the comments below what feature you'd most like to see added to the World of Warcraft. I hope you enjoyed the video, you take it easy and I'll see you again really soon.